I'm Marcus. The gallery hums with polite chatter and the low clink of wine glasses. I'm pretending to admire a series of abstract paintings when I catch sight of her. Elena, in a sunflower yellow dress, stands out like a bright splash against the muted tones of the room. Her laugh, a soft, melodic ripple, draws me in before I've even thought it through. We meet by the snack table, both reaching for the same sad little cracker topped with brie. Her hand stops midair, and she gives me a conspiratorial grin. You take it, she says. But you owe me an interesting fact about art. I'm no art critic, but I managed to say something about the movement of lines and colors mimicking chaos. She tilts her head, considering it like I've just unlocked some profound truth. Chaos, she says slowly. I like that. By the end of the night, we've swapped numbers, and 2 days later, I find myself on a whirlwind of a first date. She drags me to a pop-up poetry reading in a bookstore basement, and we end the evening with greasy diner burgers at midnight. It's messy, unplanned, nothing like the schedules I'm used to. But it works. For months, we're magnetic opposites. I'm the one with the spreadsheets, and the alarms set 5 minutes early. She's the one with the impulsive weekend getaways and last-minute plans to see experimental jazz in the park. Life's too short to plan everything, she tells me once, lying upside down on my couch with her hair spilling onto the floor. And too long to wing it, I reply, adjusting my tie for an upcoming meeting. We laugh, and it's easy. 18 months in, moving in together feels like the natural next step. We find a small downtown apartment, equal parts charm and drafty windows. Moving day is a flurry of cardboard boxes and her running commentary on my obsession with labeling everything. This box says kitchen, dishes and utensils, she teases, holding it up. Did you really need to write utensils? What else would go with dishes? Precision matters, I say, grinning as I take it from her. Combining our lives means combining habits. I keep my savings routine quiet, while she keeps her impromptu splurges on artisanal candles and indie ceramics. We set up separate accounts for personal expenses, a joint account for rent, groceries, and utilities. It feels like a good system. For a while it is. Our routines intertwine without stepping on each other's toes. She edits graphics on her tablet in the evenings while I review quarterly reports. Weekends are a blend of her spontaneity and my careful planning. If I plan a hike, she insists on taking a detour to explore a roadside flea market. When she surprises me with tickets to a food festival, I figure out how to make it part of a budgeted weekend. Still, there's something about her ability to live in the moment that fascinates me. It's reckless, but it's also freeing. While I'm calculating interest rates and debating investment options, she's lighting candles for no reason other than the mood feels right. You make it sound like money is the only thing that matters, she says one night, after I jokingly suggested she sell some of her vintage jewelry collection. It's not the only thing, I reply. It's just a thing worth thinking about. She shrugs, unbothered. I like to think about how to enjoy it. And for a while, I admire her for it. Her carefree approach softens my sharp edges, while my practicality adds structure to her chaos. It's a balance I never knew I needed. But there are moments, small, fleeting moments, where the cracks begin to show. Like the time she forgot to pay her half of the rent until 2 days after it was due. Or when she ordered takeout for the 3rd night in a row, shrugging off my suggestion to cook at home more often. Relax, Marcus, she says, smiling as she digs into a $20 quinoa bowl. Life's too short to worry about pennies. I bite my tongue and let it go. For now, the harmony holds. But harmony has a way of disguising tension, like a song played just slightly off-key. I don't mention the receipts piling up in the corner of her desk or the notifications about late fees on her phone. She doesn't ask why I spend hours fine-tuning my monthly budget, even after the numbers add up. It's easier to focus on the good, the spontaneous road trips, the lazy mornings with her head resting on my chest, the way she kisses me when I bring home her favorite chocolate croissant. I tell myself it's enough. I want to believe it. After all, isn't love about compromise? moving in together is supposed to be a step forward. Instead, it feels like a quiet tug-of-war over the life we're building. The first real crack appears on a Saturday afternoon, our first trip to a furniture store. The plan is simple: a new couch to replace the lumpy hand-me-down she brought with her. I've already mapped out a budget, $1,500, give or take. Elena, however, zeroes in on a sectional the size of a small car, covered in soft cream fabric. "Oh my God, Marcus!" she gushes, running her hands along the cushions. "This is it. Can you imagine movie nights on this thing?" I can, but I can also imagine the $3,000 price tag obliterating the budget. "It's nice," I say carefully, "but maybe we should look around a bit more? See if there's something similar but less." I trail off, searching for a tactful word. "Perfect," she finishes, shooting me a playful grin. "Expensive," I counter. Her smile fades, replaced by a furrowed brow. "It's an investment. Quality matters, right?" "Within reason." The salesperson hovers nearby, sensing the tension. Elena gives me a tight smile and says, "Fine. We'll keep looking." But the way she says it, sharp and clipped, makes it clear this isn't over. That night, she curls up on the old couch with her tablet, scrolling through furniture websites. I see her add the sectional to a shopping cart, and then close the tab without buying it. "Happy?" she says, not looking up. I don't answer. It's not just the couch. Over time, little disagreements start piling up, like unopened bills stuffed into a drawer. Her treat yourself philosophy clashes with my habit of thinking 3 steps ahead. The online shopping packages, shoes, candles, throw pillows, arrive weekly. She jokes about our apartment becoming an Amazon fulfillment center. I don't laugh. When I suggest we use an app like Splitwise to track shared expenses, she rolls her eyes. "What are we, college roommates?" "It's not about that," I argue. "It's about transparency." She shrugs. "I trust you to keep track." Her trust feels more like a dodge. I try monthly budget meetings. She agrees to one, sipping wine while I go over spreadsheets. But by the second meeting, she's scrolling through Instagram. By the third, she doesn't show up at all. "Money doesn't have to be a big deal," she says when I bring it up again. "We're doing fine, aren't we?" Her idea of fine doesn't match mine. The tension bubbles over one evening when the utility bill comes in higher than expected. "Elena, you can't keep taking 30-minute showers," I say, trying to keep my tone even. "I'm sorry, I like being warm," she snaps. "Not all of us are robots who can shower in 3 minutes flat. It's not about speed. It's about cost. It's about you micromanaging every little thing," she fires back. The argument ends with her storming off to the bedroom and me staring at the bill, trying to figure out how we got here. The breaking point comes a week later when Elena suggests using my emergency fund for a trip to Spain. "It's not a big deal," she says, spreading glossy travel brochures across the kitchen counter. "We can rebuild the fund later. But this deal? It's once in a lifetime." I stare at her, incredulous. "That fund is for emergencies, Elena. Not vacations." She folds her arms. "Sometimes you have to live a little, Marcus. And sometimes you have to think about the future. I'm thinking about memories," she says, her voice rising. "You're thinking about spreadsheets." Her nickname for me, Mr. Spreadsheet, used to be playful, a tease laced with affection. Now it stings, weighted with bitterness. We don't speak for the rest of the night. The next morning, I notice the Spain brochures crumpled in the trash. For a brief moment, guilt flickers. I hate being the bad guy, the one who always says no. But as I sit down to update my budget tracker, guilt gives way to frustration. This is about more than a trip. It's about values, priorities, and the growing realization that we're standing on opposite sides of a widening gap. I don't bring up Spain again, and neither does she. But the silence between us feels heavier now, stretched thin over things left unsaid. By the time we've been living together for a year, money isn't just a subject, it's a battlefield. I start tracking our shared expenses in an Excel spreadsheet, color-coded and broken down by category. Rent, groceries, utilities, it's all there. I send Elena a link to it one morning with a cheerful note. Figured this might help us stay on the same page. Her response comes 3 hours later. You really are Mr. Spreadsheet, huh? At first, I think she's joking. But when I bring it up at dinner, her face tightens. It's a little much, Marcus. It feels like you're turning this into a business arrangement. It's not about that. It's about clarity, I say, keeping my tone measured. It'll help us avoid surprises. Clarity for you, maybe, she mutters, poking at her salad. I let it drop, but the spreadsheets stay. Then comes the credit card discovery. I'm organizing our mail one evening, sorting bills and junk flyers, when I spot a Nordstrom envelope addressed to Elena. I hesitate. We don't shop at Nordstrom, at least, not in the way that warrants store-branded envelopes. Hey, Elena! I call out, holding it up. What's this? She's at the kitchen counter, unpacking a delivery of artisanal olive oils she ordered. Because they were on sale. Her eyes dart to the envelope, and she freezes for half a second before shrugging. It's nothing. Nothing? I open it and pull out the statement. My chest tightens as I scan the numbers. $7,000? What is this? She snatches the paper from my hands. Relax, it's under control. Under control? My voice rises. How long has this been going on? She rolls her eyes. Why are you acting like I've committed a crime? It's not like I asked you to pay it off. No, but we're supposed to be a team. I snap. And you've been hiding this from me? Her jaw sets. Because I knew you'd overreact. Like you're doing right now. I don't sleep much that night. Thoughts churn like a storm. Her spending, her secrecy, the fact that I had no idea she was carrying this kind of debt. Elena's sister, Rachel, calls me a week later. We're polite but not particularly close, so her tone catches me off guard. Marcus, can I ask you something? Sure. Has Elena mentioned anything about her finances? Like before you two moved in together? I pause, unsure how much to share. Why? She sighs. Look, I probably shouldn't get involved, but this isn't the first time she's struggled with credit cards. It's always been her way of coping. Coping with what? You'd have to ask her, Rachel says, her voice tight. But just don't let it spiral, okay? The conversation leaves me reeling. That night, I bring up the credit card again, calmly this time. Elena, we need to talk about this debt. She groans. Not this again. I'm handling it. Are you? Because it doesn't seem like it. Her eyes flash. You're unbelievable. Do you think I'm some reckless child you need to parent? This isn't about parenting, I say, forcing my voice to stay level. It's about honesty. About trust. Trust? She laughs bitterly. You mean control. Admit it, Marcus, you're obsessed with controlling everything. Money, schedules, even me. The words hit like a slap. From that point on, our financial talks become dreaded weekly. Accounting sessions. I set up a time every Sunday evening. She shows up reluctantly, slouched in her chair, arms crossed. I tried to keep things factual, but her passive-aggressive jabs make it impossible. Anything else you'd like to micromanage, Mr. Spreadsheet? She asks one night, flipping through the itemized printouts I prepared. I don't answer. By now, the strain is impossible to ignore. Every package that lands on our doorstep feels like a personal attack. I catch myself checking the account balance more often, scrutinizing her Amazon purchases and Etsy receipts. You're obsessed, she says one night, catching me scrolling through bank statements. I'm trying to keep us afloat. I shoot back. No, you're trying to turn me into you, she snaps. Newsflash, Marcus, I'm not some middle-class accountant who saves every penny like it's his last. Her words sting, but the truth behind them cuts deeper. I've become the financial bad guy. The one who says no, the one who insists on budgets and accountability. And it's pushing us further apart. The worst part? I can't stop. Elena, for her part, stops pretending to care. When I suggest cutting back on streaming services, she shrugs and says, "Do whatever you want." Her spending doesn't slow, but her engagement in the relationship does. I try to explain my worries, my fears, but she doesn't hear them, or doesn't want to. Every conversation loops back to the same argument: I'm controlling. She's reckless. Neither of us budges. By now, the love we started with feels buried under layers of resentment and frustration. What once felt effortless now feels impossible. 6 months after the spreadsheets began ruling our Sundays, we sit in Dr. Warner's office. The air smells like lavender and faint coffee. Elena insisted therapy was a last resort. I agreed, but only because I didn't want to be the one who walked away first. Dr. Warner gestures for us to start. "Why are you here?" Elena doesn't hesitate. "He treats me like a child. Every decision has to go through his approval process, like I can't think for myself." Her words are sharp, slicing through me before I have a chance to brace. I want to defend myself, but I wait. When I speak, I'm careful. It's not about control. It's about accountability. About trust. Her laugh is bitter. "You think tracking every penny I spend builds trust?" Dr. Warner steps in, steering the conversation. She asks about our childhoods, our parents, how we learned to manage money. I talk about my dad, how he gambled away our savings and left my mom scrambling to pay the bills. Elena mentions her mother's retail therapy habits, the way shopping became a crutch after her parents divorced. It starts to click, but not in a way that feels like progress. Instead, it feels like unearthing things we'd both rather keep buried. The sessions continue, week after week. They turn into a cycle of blame and counterblame. Elena accuses me of suffocating her. I point out the financial strain she's put us under. "You're not listening," she says during one session, her voice cracking. "I feel judged all the time. Like nothing I do is ever enough. You think I want to be this way?" I snap. "I'm trying to protect us, protect you, from making the same mistakes my dad did." Dr. Warner interjects, asking us to reflect on how we communicate, but the words bounce off the walls without sticking. At home, the distance between us grows. Our fights spill into every corner of our lives. I dread the sound of her online shopping deliveries, while she recoils at the sight of my spreadsheets. Intimacy vanishes. Every kiss, every touch, feels obligatory, as if we're acting out a script neither of us believes in anymore. One night, Elena breaks down completely. She's sitting on the couch, knees drawn to her chest. "I can't do this, Marcus. I can't live like this." "Like what?" I ask, though I know the answer. "Like I'm on trial all the time. Like I have to explain myself for being who I am." I want to argue, but the exhaustion in her voice stops me. The truth is, I've used money as a weapon, a way to control what I couldn't fix. I see it now, in the way she flinches when I bring up her spending, the way her eyes dart to mine, always bracing for judgment. But the damage is done. We sleep in the same bed but exist in different worlds. Therapy helps us understand why we're broken, but it doesn't give us the tools to fix it. One night, Elena tells me she's going to stay with Rachel for a while. "I need space," she says. I nod, unable to argue. When she leaves, the apartment feels cavernous. The spreadsheets stay closed, the silence oppressive. For the first time, I wonder if this was doomed from the start. 3 months after Elena moved out, I find myself standing in the middle of my apartment, feeling a strange sense of clarity. The quiet is no longer oppressive, it's mine. The breakup didn't hit like a wrecking ball. It was slow, a gradual understanding that what we were fighting for wasn't each other, but the illusion of harmony. Elena and I talked a few times after she left. Each conversation felt like dismantling a piece of furniture we built together. Practical. Unsentimental. We split the security deposit. She took the couch. I kept the bed. Dr. Warner suggested one final session before we closed this chapter. I almost didn't go, but something in me wanted closure, not just with Elena but with myself. I think we were mismatched from the beginning, Elena said, her tone calm but resolute. You need structure. I need freedom. We tried to meet in the middle, but neither of us could live there. She was right, and I told her so. But it didn't end there. You're not wrong for wanting to plan, she added. And I'm not wrong for wanting to live in the moment. We were both trying to rewrite each other's core instincts. That's why it didn't work. Walking out of that session, I felt lighter. For the first time, I saw the relationship for what it truly was, a learning experience, not a failure. I've spent the past few weeks reevaluating my habits. The spreadsheets still exist, but I've closed the tabs more often. I started treating myself to small things, dinners out, a weekend hiking trip with friends. Not because I'm throwing caution to the wind, but because I've realized life isn't just about what's saved, it's about what's lived. Elena has moved on in her way. I heard through Rachel that she's working on a big project for an environmental nonprofit. It suits her, creating things, finding meaning in chaos. I don't feel bitterness anymore, only a distant fondness for the good parts of what we had. Last week, I saw her at the farmer's market. She was with a group of friends, laughing, her arms full of fresh produce. She waved when she spotted me, and for a second, it was like the first night we met, her energy lighting up the space around her. We talked briefly, catching up like old acquaintances. When she walked away, I didn't feel the pang of regret I expected. Instead, there was peace. Now, as I stand in my kitchen, chopping vegetables for a new recipe I've been wanting to try, I think about how much I've changed. The Marcus who met Elena at that gallery opening wouldn't have recognized the man I am today. I'm not bitter about what happened. Elena challenged me in ways I needed, forcing me to confront the rigidity that kept me safe but also kept me stuck. And I challenged her, too, even if she couldn't admit it outright. We weren't meant to last, but that doesn't mean we failed. As I sit down to eat, the city hums outside my window. My life isn't perfectly balanced, but it's mine. I've learned the value of compromise, not just with others, but with myself. And that's worth more than anything I could ever track in a spreadsheet.